Welcome back, Heat Seekers. It's week 10. You need some help with your quarterback? Cam Newton coming back to the league, getting you a little nervous, a little scared. We got you covered. We got your tiers right here. Let's get to it. Who is QB1? QB1 overall. There's some question marks here. Kyler's got an injury. Aaron's coming back from the COVIDs potentially on Saturday. Is there anything here that, I guess the better question is, Kyler's backup, Aaron's backup. If they have to be forced into action, they're not even relevant QB2s, right? The way they were playing, what are they, QB2 or lower maybe? So that really changes up the perspective of the QB1 overall tier. What do you think?
Yeah, those are the only two big concerns. Mahomes hasn't been showing out as people have come to expect him to, and I think that's led to some disappointment, but he's still fully capable of it, especially against a Raiders defense. And the secondary is just a mess. They have a couple nice young safeties. One of them, rookie, that's starting to slowly come into his own. But their cornerbacks, they have Casey Hayward and like nothing in terms of guys that you really feel threatened by. Again, coverage linebackers, they don't have a whole lot of what you'd like to see for coverage linebackers going against someone like Travis Kelce. And I think that they're going to be able to do enough that Mahomes belongs in this. If he continues to have, 3, 4, 5 weeks of poor performances, maybe look at moving him down. But if you're in a league, unless it's like an 8-team league or something, if you have Mahomes, you're probably playing him, and he has this upside. So I'm not too worried about it.
For sure. All right. So then QB1s, what do we got? QB1s, we got an injury coming back with Russell Wilson. We've got some guys that have been playing pretty well, but had some up and downs. Dak, Justin, even Matt Stafford do a little bit to agree recently. Any concerns here other than the guys coming back from injury on the QB1s?
I do have some concern about just Jalen Hurts' usage and how that team operates. He's had some more down weeks than what people are used to in terms of fantasy production. So is that something that we could see more of here? They're playing a team in Denver that showed up well last week against Dallas. So I do think they have the potential to do that again here. He probably still belongs in the QB1 conversation, so I don't take a problem with that. Someone that I think that could end up being higher here is Derek Carr. It seems every year he has just one amazing game against Kansas City, and Kansas City's defense just hasn't been lights out this year. They've had their own problems and gave up that game last week to the Jordan Love-led Packers, despite how poorly that team played. So I think Derek Carr, if I had to pick someone in here that I felt quite good about actually maybe exceeding this, would probably be him.
Yeah, can't argue that one. QB2s. This is an interesting one here in the QB2s because on a personal side note, in a league that I'm competing for a playoff spot, Joe Burrow's my QB1. I have Mac Jones and I have Jared Goff. So obviously we know Burrow is on bye this week. The Bengals are on a bye. So I kept going back and forth. I'm like, man, Jared Goff out of a bye week against Pittsburgh, who's been up and down, not been amazing. Or Mac Jones going against a pretty solid defense of the Browns, right? I believe. And I just keep going back and forth about who to play. So it's interesting. I hadn't checked our tiers going into it as I started to think about setting my lineups today. I just don't know how I feel about Mac Jones against a solid Browns defense. What do you think about Mac? What do you think about guys that on this list that have been struggling?
So I think this is a good spot as far as a QB2 tier for Mac Jones, in that he is someone who is put in a position to succeed by Belichick. They figured out how to have that offense run with him, being run heavy focused, and those shorter passes, just efficiently moving the ball down the field. So I do like him here. Same sort of thing with Teddy. He's got a lot of options there, which helps him. The only thing that kind of scares me about him is his offensive line has just been wrecked. I think they lost 3 starters this past week due to injuries, or it was expected, which is going to hurt your team one way or the other on offense. Just that continuity and, generally speaking, that drop off of talent, the guys that are protecting you, causes problems. So I do have some concern about him. Roethlisberger, when we're putting these together, I'm generally not putting him in the QB2 tier anymore. That said, sorry, Brad, he's going against your Lions, who I think that fact alone, and that he isn't looking terrible when he's generally functioning within that shorter offense as far as passing. If he's forced to chuck the ball downfield, as we saw in that one deep throw to James Washington on Monday night, it gets ugly fast. But I do think he is tuned, despite, I think, him just generally speaking being done as a quarterback.
And for Ben's defense, and I'm typically not somebody that does that offensive line that he's got in front of him is brutally bad due to injuries, due to inefficient play, whatever the case may be. Obviously, he's not doing himself any favors trying to throw deep balls these days. He really needs to keep it in the 20 to 30 yards or less, I think, to be really solid. I know that hurts Deontay Johnson because he's a big play threat, but can also be a PPR hog, so I guess it doesn't really. Big Ben.
Let me pose a question to you, Brad. Who do you like more this week, Mike White against Buffalo or Jared Goff against Pittsburgh?
Goff against Pittsburgh easily. Buffalo
Yeah,
is just
just a matchup.
disgusting. Yeah,
Yeah.
is disgusting. Where Pittsburgh isn't bad. They're in the middle of the pack for everything on defense. So they're not really spectacular, but they're not really terrible. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Goff's going off for 350 or something, but if he gets 250 and 1 or 2 and some rushing yards, it wouldn't surprise me. What are sleepers? Obviously, injuries will be the only thing that wakes some of these guys up. Trevor, I'm comfortable saying should start unless Taysom is unless he's fully healthy. It doesn't seem like the Saints are going to try to rush him back because Siemian's been running the offense just fine. And last week, the loss was the defense's fault more than it was the offense. Siemian was fairly solid as a manager. Jacoby won't play unless Tua really is truly a game time decision and they call him out. Cam Newton signing, PJ Walker's going to play this weekend because he knows the offense, but Cam from then on, who knows? Geno, Jordan, very similar. If their QB ahead of him doesn't play, which there's potential, but probably going to play. So these two can stay in bed. Any thoughts, comments, concerns either way?
I personally like Brissett a little bit more than a sleeper. I'd be all right with him as a flex play because Baltimore has given up points to quarterbacks this year at a decent click, and he's shown well. He hasn't been anything amazing, but he's not a long-term NFL starter. We know that, but he can be functional in a pinch for your fantasy team and real team.
Solid bet.
A complete dud, there's that sort of risk, but that's what you're getting just in that flex sort of sleeper tier. I like him. PJ Walker, I probably have more of an affinity than I should just because of his XFL. I think he was undefeated in the XFL.
Yes, he's the man.
This is not the XFL, unfortunately, and he has not shown as well nearly in the NFL. So he probably does belong down here, and it really is a shot here to say, all right, are you going to be given another week even with Cam, or we're just going to turn the reins over to Cam next week? One more thing we should mention, we don't have a player card, surprise, but Colt McCoy would probably be down in this sort of flex area too if Kyler is not able to play. He, again, functioned admirably last week as a surprise to throw on the team that wasn't preparing for him, however you prepare for a Colt McCoy, but keep that in mind if Kyler does not play.
There you go. So if you need the help in a pinch, break glass, you got a Colt. That's it, people. These are your tiers for the week. As always, if you have questions, drop them below. If you need something, let us know. Hit us up, Discord, Twitter, anywhere you can find us. Smash that like, and we'll talk to you again soon.